The night settled over the fortress like a veil of cold iron, but inside the central hall, nothing felt still. It was as if the stones themselves were breathing slow, tense. Uncertain. Salahuddin stood alone for a long moment after Sarim's confession. The torches flickered, the air felt heavier. Truth had been uncovered, but truth rarely came alone. It always dragged consequences behind it. A traitor among the inner council, someone with access. Someone with influence, someone who had been playing a quiet game for months. And now the mask had slipped. But the face underneath was still hidden. Salahuddin turned and walked toward the council chambers. His steps were calm, collected, but his mind worked like a sharpened blade, cutting through possibilities, names, and motives. There were 12 men on the inner council, 12 voices that shaped strategy, policy, defense. 12 men he had trusted. One of them was now the architect of a silent collapse. Not a crusader. Not an outsider. A friend, a brother, a man who had eaten at the same table and prayed under the same roof. This truth carried a different kind of weight, the kind that presses on the heart more than the shoulders. The gathering at dawn. Salahuddin called an urgent council meeting. One by one, the members entered the chamber, their eyes carrying confusion, curiosity, and a faint trace of worry. The traitor was among them. Watching, listening, acting. S-A-A-A-N. Observed them silently as they took their positions around the circular table. Old scholars, seasoned commanders, tribal elders, financial overseers, each man with a history, a loyalty claimed, and a motive buried somewhere in the past. When the doors closed behind them, the hall became a cage of thoughts. Salahuddin began with a steady voice. Last night, a commander was captured in the archives. He confessed to aiding an infiltrator, and he claimed that one among you ordered him. A tremor crossed the circle, not loud, but present. Eyes shifted, throats tightened, hands clenched. No one spoke. Salahuddin looked at each face slowly, carefully. Some carried shock, some carried insult, some carried fear, but one face held too much. Stillness. Too much composure. Composure was often the first sign of guilt, but Salahuddin did not reveal what he saw. Not yet. Suspicion and strategy, he continued. The scroll that was burned, the shadow that entered our fortress, the guard who was knocked unconscious. None of this was random. He leaned in slightly, his tone sharpened. Someone is feeding the enemy from within. The room filled with murmurs. One elder protested. Surely no man here would. Salahuddin raised a hand. Silence returned instantly. Trusted the commander we caught, yet he betrayed us. Do not expect your innocence to be taken at your word. The message was clear. No one was above suspicion. Not anymore. He then issued the order. Until this traitor is revealed, no council member leaves the fortress. No message is sent out. No rider moves without my permission. It was not a request. It was a lockdown, a cage within a cage, because sometimes truth must be cornered before it shows itself. The web tightens. The council disbanded under the weight of unspoken accusations. Outside, the fortress shifted into a different rhythm. Suspicion replaced routine. Guards doubled their patrols. Eyes lingered longer on strangers. Even familiar footsteps sounded unfamiliar. Now, 3 separate investigative teams began, tracing every movement of the council members from the past 2 weeks. Letters. Supplies. Meetings. Whispers overheard. Unusual absences. Unexpected visitors. Everything was documented, but betrayal is rarely visible on parchment. It lives in the spaces between actions and the things people hide rather than the things they show Dot by midday. A pattern emerged, not clear. Dot not complete, but enough to hint where the rot was spreading. One council member had consistently ordered supplies for expansion projects that didn't exist. Another had been meeting privately with merchants linked to rival factions. A third had recently received an anonymous donation of gold. Threads were tangled, but they all led in one direction. Someone was funding something. Something big. Something dangerous. Salahuddin studied the reports carefully. His face remained calm, but his eyes sharpened with every line. This wasn't a simple act of betrayal. This was a construction, a plan laid brick by brick in silence. Whisper in the night, that night, while the fortress struggled to sleep under its burden of paranoia, a faint knock came at Salahuddin's door. A messenger, the same young servant who had seen the commander earlier. His voice trembled. "My lord." I saw him again. Salahuddin's heart stilled for a second. Where? Near the lower storage rooms. But he wasn't alone. This time, the servant had seen two figures. One was masked, the other was not, and the unmasked man was someone the servant recognized, a council member, not a high-ranking one, not a loud voice, but a quiet strategist known for his calm presence. Calmness again. Calmness had a pattern. Salahuddin exhaled slowly. The circle was tightening. The silent confrontation before dawn. Salahuddin ordered the council member quietly brought in. No chains, no noise, no public humiliation. He wanted truth, not spectacle. The man entered with measured steps, his face controlled. Salahuddin looked at him, not accusingly, but like a man weighing the worth of a soul. "You were seen last night." The man blinked only once. "Where, my lord?" "In the storage rooms. With a visitor." A slight pause, barely a heartbeat long, but enough. The man smiled, a slow, practiced smile. "My lord, there must be a misunderstanding." Salahuddin leaned forward. Misunderstandings do not hide in shadows, they walk in daylight. The man's smile faded, not because he was caught, but because he realized who he was dealing with. Salahuddin continued, "Tell me the truth voluntarily, because the truth you hide now will crush you later." Still, the man remained silent. Calmness. That same calmness. A mask carved from stone. Breaking the silence. The investigation continued for hours. Documents were brought. Witnesses questioned. Movements compared. Timelines reconstructed. And slowly, the stone mask began to crack. The council member's alibis faltered. His explanations grew thin. His confidence wavered, until finally he slipped. Not in words, not in temper, but in silence. A silence too rehearsed, too careful. Salahuddin caught it instantly. He spoke softly. "You are not hiding yourself. You are protecting someone." The man's breath caught. It was subtle, but undeniable. Salahuddin had found the missing piece. This man was not the mastermind. He was a shield, a protector. For someone above him, someone whose shadow stretched further than anyone realized. Name that changes everything. When the truth finally emerged, it came like a slow, reluctant confession. Not shouted. Not dramatic. But whispered. As if even speaking it aloud carried a cost. The traitor behind the traitors. The architect of the silent infiltration. The one who had used gold, influence, and fear, was a man Salahuddin had once trusted with closed eyes. A senior advisor. Wise. Composed. Soft. Spoken. Respected by every tribe. A man who had been shaping decisions for years. A man whose counsel had guided entire campaigns. A man who, beneath the surface, had grown resentful of Salahuddin's rising power. Fearful of change, hungry for control, he had not betrayed for enemies. He had betrayed for himself, because sometimes the most dangerous ambition is the ambition that hides behind humility. The moment before the storm, Salahuddin dismissed the council member. Quietly, the truth lay in his hands now, a truth sharp enough to cut through everything he had built. He walked toward the balcony overlooking the fortress. Sky was still dark, but a faint red line marked the horizon. Dawn was coming, light was coming, but light, Salahuddin knew, always exposed what darkness tried to hide. He closed his eyes. Briefly, there would be confrontations, there would be consequences, there would be loss. Before the outer war against the Crusaders, he would now face a war within, a war against a man who once prayed beside him, a war not of swords, but of truths. He whispered to himself, a fortress can survive siege from the outside, but not from betrayal within. The coming hours would decide everything. The brotherhood, leadership. The unity. The future. And the shadow behind the council was about to face the light. The real battle of episode 74 was only beginning.